minutes to the top of the hour, and those are the 28 minutes we've got for our topic of discussion, the day of the month of July 2022. And it's the first day of the financial year 2022-2023, and we are starting it on a high note. It's a Friday, it's a weekend, and then in our topic of discussion, we are looking at the real estate sector in Uganda, the real estate industry in Uganda. 10 years, the real estate sector in Uganda has actually been growing tremendously. When you look at people setting up apartments, people setting up rentals everywhere, people set hotels and all that, all of those can be put under the real estate sector, which is greatly growing. It has actually been a very huge sign of investment for some of the Ugandans out there. And joining me this morning is Kamugisha Anatoly, who is the proprietor, CEO, founder, Arkwright Projects in Uganda. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Are we okay?
Yes.
Many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you too.
And a happy new month to you.
Yes.
If you out there, first of all, would want to know who is Anatoly Kamugisha.
Oh, Anatoly Kamugisha is a proprietor of Arkwright Projects and as well as a founder. Of course, his other titles. Currently, I am a private Lord Mayor Arkwright City.
Yes.
Yeah, this award was given to me by the community, the local community. But my work is to support them in terms of technical solutions.
Okay. Some people say you're the father of real estate in Uganda.
Well, it could be because when we started completely, the place was still virgin to a private developer. That was in 1999. And we started when there was no construction finance, when there was no mortgage finance, there was no systems of, even the word real estate was still a very strange word, because we would say, we are going to put up an estate, or I want to sell a property in real estate, and someone would say, I can't stay in a barracks. So the word estate meant a barracks.
Okay.
So we played a bigger role in trying to change the society to appreciate the word that real estate means organized human settlement.
All right.
And now it has caught fire. Now everyone is talking about real estate because they have lived. You see, changing people's mindset is not an easy thing, but of course it changed with the cost. We spent a lot of money doing what we call educational marketing on radio, on television, on many forms of touching the community to believe, to understand the word real estate.
Okay. If you're to look at this, give us an overview of the real estate sector first before COVID.
Yes.
How was it before the COVID-19 pandemic hit us?
Of course, before COVID, real estate has been moving on well. Many buildings have been coming up. Many projects have been working out, and mortgages, every bank has been having mortgage financing, construction financing, and also the consumers, because every day many young people get out of the colleges, and when they get out of colleges, they want to start their own home, they want to start their own life. The first thing they have to look at those basic needs, 7 of them, and one of the most expensive basic need is shelter. And therefore, housing and real estate comes in first, because before you settle, you need a home, you need to hold, and you start doing other things. So that's why now that real estate has been at the forefront of everything, and it's the biggest industry because it employs most of the people.
Okay. Yeah. So how has the real estate sector business performance been so far now after COVID? Now people are getting back on board as well, recovery process. How has it been for the real estate world?
It's still picking up. Even during COVID, it is the only industry that was working, if you know very well.
Because everyone was home, and they were supposed to look for...
During COVID, they said the factories, the construction sites should remain working. So it means it was a safe, industry that we saw it was safe.
Yeah. And looking at the challenges, of course, I believe there is nothing like a smooth road anywhere.
Yes.
But if you're to look at the challenges from the real estate sector, how do they differ from the other industries?
Real estate industry is, the word real means, real estate means real wealth.
Okay.
So when you talk about real estate, you are talking about real wealth, you are talking about the real nerves of someone's life. Because real estate means that you are creating something to give somebody shelter, to give somebody employment, and even to give somebody a job, because you use a home, you use a building to put up an office. You cannot put an office in air. You must use whatever. So you need a hospital, you need to have a building, still real estate. You need a farm. Into animals, you need land because it's part of real estate. So everything rotates on real estate.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, looking at what has been one of the key major challenges that the real estate developers have faced.
Yes.
In the last few years. Now, this time around is general.
Yes.
What challenge has been which has been very, I should say, a challenge that has stayed for the longevity or for the duration of time?
The problem is that has been there in real estate, even before, even COVID, even now. It has been because we have very little money as a construction funding in our financial institutions, what we call construction funding. We have been having little money as far as mortgage funding, financing is concerned. So many people hustle in their own to take money here and there to make sure they can get money to build those homes, to acquire those properties. And if, now we got again the money which is flowing in banks are still people still hustle. But in developed world there is always money for mortgage. There is always money for construction funding. Yet here it is not. There are very few banks, about 5 of them, which are still doing a mortgage. This was Stanbic Bank, DFCU Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and Barclays. And do you know how this money came to this country?
No.
It's also story. This money was brought by IFC from, of course, cut us off our mobilization because we brought them here. We told them there is no construction fund. We took them through slums, and they said, I think there is a need to bring money here. When they said, we cannot give you money as accurate, but we shall give money to financial institutions, you borrow from those. About $100 million to those banks.
To at least go in.
That's how Uganda managed to get the mortgage financing and construction funding. And then, of course, we started borrowing from those and that's how the industry became vibrant.
So if we get if we get this funding more often, then the industry is going to grow bigger.
The industry is on funding.
Okay.
Construction funding and consumption funding. Because how do you consume? You see, the consumers must use mortgages. The producers of homes must use construction. The consumers use the mortgages, and the production of houses is a construction funding. Then there is no problem with the industry. Maybe one small area where we have a problem of physical development plan, where land is confused on ground with squatters, with all that kind of stuff. So you find that at times there is no union land, you're doing something here, someone comes and put a caveat and interest in that. So what we call hidden encumbrances, historical encumbrances. Of course, historical encumbrances, this cannot be a developer's problem. Of course, it is a general problem, the Ugandan policy, land policy, and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Just recently, the Minister for Lands in charge of housing and development, State Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Pastor says that sector did not receive any funding this financial year, saying that it's also a weak point for estate. But looking at the forecast of the future, you mentioned something about the mortgages. And my question would be, do you believe mortgages are ideally the future of real estate in Uganda?
Yes. Without mortgages, there's no real estate. It's not real, because you see what I'm trying to say. How do you buy a house, 1 billion? Where would you have got that money? How do you buy a house, 500 million, 200 million? Where would you have got money at once? But you can go and get a mortgage, which you can pay 10. So what would be your monthly rental payment? Now you turn it into an installment for a property. So after 10 years, 15 years, the property becomes your property.
Okay.
So you don't make a mistake of thinking that you buy property using your. First of all, it is a big mistake if you do that.
Okay.
Mortgage is okay because you are sleeping, you are consuming a product, at the same time you are paying, eventually it's going to be your property. So that's it.
How should the financial institutions help this real estate sector? How can they help the real estate sector, for example, from the shocks of COVID?
First of all, they need the loans because people who had jobs after COVID lost jobs. Two, there has been some displacements. People were in this job, now is changing to another job, then another one to another job. So there is a transition. So there is that crisis, things stabilize. So if they reschedule, saying that, okay, now you are paying this, maybe you can pay this, maybe in about 1 year, then you can start paying that. That is when things can balance. Because there is some turbulences, how do you call it? Is it turbulence or what? But some fluctuation in terms of financial, there should be some adjustments.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of real estate, developing and management, you've got the Arkwright property project, Arkwright project in Uganda. So first of all, Ugandan would want to know how far with the project and what do you intend what did you intend at the time of starting up this project?
Okay, I'm going to start like this because in summary, I want to tell you who were founders of real estate. Therefore, the place was virgin. There was nothing like a construction funding, no mortgage financing. So we had what we call pioneering injuries.
Okay.
We suffered them. We are the people who brought in this mortgage financing and construction funding, which you see on table. You getting me?
Yeah.
We are the people who convinced the president because we hosted him to support real estate in terms of policy. Okay. Some policies were changed. An example, on the day we hosted the president immediately capitalized the housing finance with the money. They had the money, but it was not the president ordered that that money be capitalized housing finance. Immediately housing finance got the money, got the capital on the day we hosted the president. So you can see immediate things. So another thing that went through is that we had issues with of course, as a pioneer, when we started, we moved very fast with taxation. We became, we were seen as the only people who was doing very well. Then they came and harassed us and blocked us and came and blocked, closed the offices. That's trouble because we had borrowed. We had no action over borrowed from most of about 9 banks. Because we were a pioneer, every banker was willing to give us the money, and we were the people who brought the money, so every banker gave us the money. So we started so many projects, about 11 housing projects, leave alone the one big one on Tele, but we had about 11 projects. So as we were moving, when tax people came and grabbed us and closed our offices and distressed us, they wrote what we call agency notice, and they freeze our accounts in the banks because we had borrowed in the bank. The banks record the loan. They say, you are a risky customer. We cannot continue with you because we have issues with URI. Then when we tried to settle, then it became a bigger problem. Actually, we some injuries of URA, injuries of those call of loans in 9 banks. If you hear them suffering from one car loan, one from one bank, and you hear somebody crying, but for us, it was 9 loans in 9 banks recorded at the same time.
Okay.
Yes.
So looking at the Arkwright project.
So now I'm in a summary now. After that, we suffered those injuries. Of course, with a lot of experience, which we have put up so many 11, including a satellite city. We went through those problems, but again, after that, we gained a lot of experience. Now we back on table. For us now, we are now seriously engaging ourselves on condominium apartments. We are putting up Namugongo satellite town. You are going to see it if you go on whatever is there in Namugongo satellite city condominium. In Entebbe Road, we have also condominium development and many others. So we are doing more now vertical than horizontal. because at that time we were doing a lot of bungalows, a lot of standout units, but now because of land issue, banks, it is good to maximize the land, the land use. So now we are saying the little land we are running with, go vertical, be able to provide a solution. Okay. And also now, the generation now, the young people have jobs that are not so much permanent and they don't earn a lot of money, so affordable homes. So we are more of affordable homes, low-cost houses, but of course low-cost houses not in this bungalow, but also vertical development.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is what you're focusing more on.
We are flooded now with that.
Okay. Yes. Speaking of the young generation, I do belong to this one, and we have an imagination of when someone is going to have a more permanent home.
Yes.
So from your own perspective, under what circumstances or which age would be rightful for someone to say, well, I need a good home, I need a permanent home, and here it is?
Well, the moment you start working, think about but a property that is in which rhymes with the income.
Okay.
It should be, you should start with just affordable home, which is a mortgaged home, so that your rent is converted into ownership of a property. So in other words, immediately you start a mortgage. That's what I'm saying. You are still working, get a mortgage and start. But don't think of going into the bungalow house, start out unit, build a house which looks like a hotel and say, I have my money. As a young person, you are a young person, you have many things, about 7 basic needs which you need to solve. Yes. So don't use one basic need which is called the shelter. And you say, I've invested all my money in one basic need, which is a shelter. For you to be able to have those glamorous house, those kind of stuff, you should be giving it to yourself as a gift, as a prize when you become 60. Okay. 55, you start building your, what we call that, so that you retire in that, get ground, that kind of stuff. Okay. But when you are younger, you are 25, you are still having this, even you have not married, even you start putting up those things, and again, when you have no factory. When you are a young person, you are supposed to think of accommodation and think about putting a factory, things that produce, manufacture, you earn.
So you need to look at a business before thinking of that permanent home, because the business is supposed to be funding the home.
Yes.
Okay. And also back to the situation is you mentioned the issue about affordability of this particular real estate. And in the time you've actually been in it, just recently here, the Landlord and Tenants Bill was actually enacted. So, and most people are actually saying this was landlords in that perspective. Do you feel if that bill comes on board, it is, if that bill does, apparently passes, do you feel it for the industry?
Yeah, it's better for the industry because it's supporting the producer, not the consumer. It's supporting the producer. Once the producer is supported, many houses will come on board. Many people will be motivated to put more properties on board. Then the consumer will have a variety of that whatever. Than supporting a consumer who does not produce homes. You see, the consumer have been abusing the industry because to build a house is not a joke. You can't be a joker and you put up a house. You need to be a very serious person to be able to put up that house. So when you are a consumer, you respect the person who has sacrificed, who has labored, who has borrowed the money from the bank, who has suffered in getting the land, who has suffered in doing all those things and put up that shelter which you are enjoying. You respect him. Don't come and abuse and say, oh, you can't slow me out, you have not given me Saturdays. When he was borrowing the money, giving him Saturday, whatever. So I think the bill is right. And again, this has not been, this is a law that has even been benchmarked with other laws in the rest of the world.
Okay. Look at it also in this perspective. I would want to believe the reason as why most of the landlords are supporting this is because most of the tenants have been running away without payment.
Yes.
So in such a generation whereby people can easily be tracked and all that, how was it back in the time when it was really difficult to find someone? Imagine you have your houses, for example, say in Lugonjo, and then you're living in Nalia.
Yes.
So at that time, how would you monitor back in the time? How would you monitor with very few consultants or let's say property consultants who would at least go out there to track down these clients for you? How would you manage to get your
Well, you would try by all means to make sure you have someone on ground. You try to make sure you check on the client. You have to make sure you persuade the client not to take that direction. When you respect the client also, he respects you. At times you create a relationship, a rapport, to make sure he feel guilty by jumping out of your house and run away. So by creating that relationship, that will also be whatever. And then the people have had that ill motive of running away from somebody. So those things have not happened. But now they are happening because people have developed those ill motives that how I can jump out without paying and run away. So, and again, of course, those were bad, but those were part of the bottlenecks to the industry.
From the real estate perspective, should we say what should the landlords, for example, a young landlord, someone who's just started up, has just entered into the sector, what are those key things they need to expect in the industry?
If you are a young person, you are coming to the industry, real estate. Now, what you should expect is that one, don't go big, small. Attempt to one thing, small house. You see how you are fired. Then again, the one house will give you another house, and those two will give you another house, like that. You can't all come like this. No, it must be a step, one at a go.
Okay.
Yes.
And then your final remarks as we are parting out with our discussion. As any last few words for the viewers out there as we are winding up.
Something maybe I would want to tell this industry that real estate development or investment is a very nice and a good investment area whereby you can't go wrong. But it's very expensive. You need to be disciplined and you have to have experience. Some of us, we have it all. We are young, we did everything, whatever, so we have a lot of experience. But a young person who wants to enter into it, we want to assure you it's a good industry. Go slow and calculate your things properly, make your numbers, make your preparations very whatever. Don't rush, don't panic. And again, don't be ambitious because all those has a price. But again, embrace the mortgages in terms of don't use your small monies to know that all the monies you have for putting up a structure. Use the mortgage, borrow the money to acquire a property, and you only borrow money when you are doing a construction of a property for a business, as an investment, not as
a business. An investment, not as a liability or...
Not as a liability. You see, let me tell you, your own house, when you are staying in a house above your income, it becomes a liability. If you are staying in a house worth $1 billion, whatever, and you are earning 5 million shillings, it means that your money, which you are earning every month, cannot sustain. You have locked 1 billion for only shelter. And yet 1 billion could be doing something else and bring you other more monies. But if you are having about $50 million, there is nothing wrong by having a house of 1 million, of 1 billion. I get my point.
Yes.
So I want you to understand that the house you should have should not be more than what you earn. If you at that level borrow from the bank and the mortgage, keep on paying as you continue using that money to create other businesses that can bring other incomes.
All right. Okay. And that is Natalie Kamgisha, proprietor, founder, CEO, Arkwright Projects, who is also known as the grandfather of real estate in the country. He says they started the journey way back, 1999. Things weren't easy. When back then, the brokers were very deadly in the time. These days, the brokerage situation has actually been more professional. People at least can easily access someone in office to get a house or to get an apartment and all that. So we've been looking at the real estate industry in Uganda and its role in redefining Uganda's future developments. And it's a happy hours to you. And when you look at the projections, by the way, this very year, there is also a huge prospect that the real estate, commercial real estate, will be redefined again or will recover from the shocks of COVID-19, but it wasn't that hard in COVID, right? Exactly. And thank you very much for being part of Smart Means Business this very week. We shall return on Monday, the 4th of July, 2022. A happy new month, a happy weekend. See you then. Good morning.